Good afternoon and welcome to the Weekend at 1. My name is Najma Ismail. Now, the state visit by President Uhuru Kenyatta to Uganda entered its second day today. The president is later in the day expected to meet the Kenyan business community in Uganda as well as address Kenyans living in Uganda. He is expected to address the Ugandan parliament tomorrow. Yesterday, Uhuru and the Kenyan delegation held bilateral talks with Ugandan President Yoweri Museveni and members of his cabinet. The talks centered around integration, agriculture, tourism and health. Last night, Ugandan President Yoweri Museveni hosted a state banquet in honor of President Uhuru Kenyatta at State House, Uganda. Now, Uhuru, who is on his first state visit to Uganda, arrived in the area yesterday afternoon to a warm reception, complete with a ceremonial 21-gun salute. President Uhuru Kenyatta is accompanied by First Lady Margaret Kenyatta, Cabinet Secretary Zamina Mohammed, Henry Rotich, Rachel Amamo and James Macharia, among other senior government officials and leaders from the private sector.
Also not prosperous and stable. We need one another. And that is why, as you have correctly said, we have worked hand in hand, not only just to bring prosperity to our people, but also to ensure and work together to bring stability in our region, be it South Sudan and Somalia and Burundi. We have always taken a common position and a common stand in the recognition that we need that stability in order for us to be able to achieve the objectives that we have set for our people.
Now, the pastor of the Neno Evangelism at the center of a suspected hit-and-run road accident will be charged with reckless driving. This is according to Kenya Police. 7 police officers will also be investigated over cover-up claims and, if found guilty, will be relieved of their duties. Now, the pastor has denied that he was driving a Range Rover involved in an accident that led to the death of a woman 2 weeks ago. Nganga, a TV preacher and founder of the Neno Evangelism Center, was reported by eyewitnesses to have been driving the vehicle at the time of the accident. The Intergovernmental Authority on Development, IGAD, is on the spot over its handling of the Sudan peace process. Friends of Southern Sudan, a group with members drawn from the East African Community member states, claim that IGAD is no longer a neutral entity. The group is also faulting IGAD's proposal to have what it terms as outsiders take the lead in the search for peace.
There are 2 things that we would want to address. 1, the process, how IGAD plus committee is handling the process. And 2, we're just going to highlight some few issues with the proposed compromise agreement. So when we look at the process, since its constitution, the way IGAD plus committee was constituted and how it's been handling the issue, it has shown that, 1, it's not a neutral entity. And the other thing that it has shown is that it wants the government of South Sudan to delegate its responsibility of searching for peace in that country to outsiders, which is not a thing. Why do we call the rebels, SPLM-A, as the ones in opposition? We've seen oppositions in so many countries, but do you have to be killing people when you are in opposition? Opposition, I think, is supposed to be formulating better policies to assist the government so that it can run better, but not kill innocent lives. So for that, IGAD plus attitude towards the government of South Sudan leaves some people wondering, what is it so special about the rebellion in South Sudan? Yeah, because the rebel group are people who have violated the rule, and they should be treated like that within the Republic of South Sudan.
KANU Secretary General Nick Silat has denied political claims that the former ruling party KANU has gone into political oblivion and instead requested the electorate across the country to consider supporting its candidates in the next general election. While representing Baringo Senator Gideon Moi at a fundraising in Baringo, Silat noted that as a party they had no intention of fighting anybody politically in the vote-rich region of Rift Valley, but will instead focus on how to improve and strengthen its network earthworks nationally. Other leaders who attended the event at the Kepcherere Mixed Day and Boarding Secondary expressed their disappointments in the Auditor General's report, as others asked the residents not to accept to be silent while billions of money was unaccounted for.
Tumekufa namna gani na tunasaidiana ndani ya bunge? Mmekubali namna hiyo? Kwa nini wengine wanasema kama imekufa? Hakuna.
Nataka kueleza ukinaganaga kwamba Auditor General alikuja Baringo County akaangalia ripoti yake, badala ya kwenda kutilia maanani response wakaenda kuipublish vile ipo. Akasema interest ya 20 million haijakuwa accounted for. Na hiyo ni pesa ilipewa mahospitali yetu. The only thing that we are asking the Auditor General akuja afanye clarification kwa hiyo mambo yote, na kama kuna yeyote katika county hii ama Kenya mzima tunataka yeyote ambaye ameiba pesa ama ametumia pesa kwa njia mbaya awajibike.
Now, the Parliamentary Committee on Administration and National Security is asking the Ministry of Interior to account for 160 billion shillings allocated in the just-ended financial year. Now, the committee visited Garissa County for a post-mortem following the April 2nd terror attacks at the Garissa University College. The chairman, Joseph Njuguna, said that they had been informed that the police in Garissa County only received 300,000 shillings per quarter. The committee was further informed that some of the constituencies, that is Fafi, did not have a single national intelligence service. This is despite the department being allocated over 22 billion shillings in the last financial year.
As much as we want to blame the police and other security agencies, then we are also saying we would want the Ministry of Interior Security to account for the money that we give them. Like this year alone, we gave over 160 billion. But we are being told in the county, the police, they only get 300,000 per quarter. What can you do in the whole county with 300,000 shillings?
Residents of Shamu area in Kwale County were treated to a supremacy battle pitting Kwale women's representative Zainab Chizuga and Governor Salim Vuria. Chizuga, who was the chief guest at a fundraiser for Shamu Football Club, was surprised to find that there was no seat reserved for her, but instead there were seats from Vuria and his deputy Fatima Achani. Now, the MP, who was forced to sit at a tent, could not hide her anger, walking away in a huff when the governor stood up to give his remarks.
Kusema kwamba imefika hapa rasmi kwa sababu serikali ya ugatuzi ni serikali rasmi. Tuko na mawaziri ambao wako hapa, tuko na makatibu ya Kwale. Ninyi mwelewa kwamba kila kiongozi.
Time now for a short break, but don't go too far. I will be back with more news. Welcome back. Now, more than 5,000 Samburu men from the Lemoli age set have graduated into elders. In a colorful traditional ceremony held at Sura Adori in Samburu County, the men, who are accompanied by their wives and children, were installed as elders during a ceremony dubbed Lemuget. Now, the ceremony is normally performed by all the 9 Samburu clans and begins with the soon-to-be elders marching, waving twigs which are later splattered with milk. The newly inaugurated elders now have the authority and blessings to be part of decision-making in their clan. They will also be able to solve ethnic disputes.
Imefika wakati iwe kikao yao ya mwisho ambaye tunatawasa kuwa wasee ambaye katika kimila ambaye amebarikiwa kuwa wasee kabisa, wanaweza kufanya jambo lolote, wanaaminiwa kila mmoja yao.
Nimetawaswa sasa nikwe msee, nimeachana na mambo kimurani,
Sasa mimi ni mzee, nimeachana mambo ya youth. Mimi nimekuwa mzee na nimefurahi kwa sababu ukifika kiwango ya mzee ni kitu mzuri sana.
Now, the Methodist Church of Kenya is now urging the church and government and parents to stand up and condemn the rot among the youth in the society. Now, Bishop Joseph Ntombura says that Kenya will lose future leaders if the current decay among youth is not addressed. John Juma with the details.
The presiding bishop of the Methodist Church of Kenya, Reverend Joseph Ntombura, is asking the church to speak against the vices in this country.
The church is very concerned. Like down here at the coast, the Methodist is sponsored the schools. 3 of them have been banned. And this is very serious as far as we are concerned, because we are expectant to set examples. Our teachers, our leaders, our communities are supposed to set an example. It means everybody is prone to this.
Reverend cited cases of indiscipline among students in the recent past, cases whereby students have been seen engaged in immoral activities.
We feel something has gone wrong somewhere. This is why you find young people finding a place like a matatu to be just a good environment for them to, practice all these kind of immoralities we are thinking about. So something is wrong and in the family. And definitely when our families are not right, nothing will be right in our schools, in our governments and everywhere.
Reverend Ntombura was saddened by the fact that there are several mushrooming churches in the country, yet cases of immorality, alcohol and drug abuse among youths continue to be the norm in the society.
We are actually asking for a serious kind of dialogue between the leaders so that we can get to the bottom of it and see how we could come up with the solutions to this increasing threat.
Speaking during the annual Methodist Men held in Mombasa this year at Shanzu Teachers College, Reverend Ntombura warned against using public money.
Where there is graft or corruption, people who lose hope. And when hope is lost, people do all sorts of things in order to compensate and also to find hope. That's why you find our young people, because of that loss of hope, going into even an extent of being recruited by clandestine movements in order to earn a living. Because when you look upon the government, we are not finding solutions. When you look, to the church, we are also not providing solutions. So people go to miles trying to look for hope.
He urged parents and other stakeholders to come up strongly in condemning these vices. For example, cases of indiscipline among students, which he says has seen churches lose schools and even students perishing. Reporting for KTN News from Mombasa, I am John Juma.
Now, a study out of the University of Washington Department of Psychology has revealed that children are 800% worse when their mothers are in the room. Now, if the children are under 10, the percentage doubles to 1,600%. Take a look. If you're a mother, I'm sure you have an incident where you have to leave the room if your child is feeding, leaving the nanny to do it in your absence. Well, there's an explanation for this. A study conducted in the United States at the University of Washington followed 500 families and measured neediness, whine crying, shriek screaming, attempted slapping, forgetting how to walk or use words, and acting the fool. Researchers at the university's Department of Psychology found that children as young as 8 months old could be playing happily, but upon seeing their mother enter a room, 99.9% more likely to begin crying, release their bowels and need the mother's immediate attention. The 1%, however, was a vision-impaired child, but once he heard his mother's voice, he began throwing things and asked for a snack despite having just eaten. Now, the research found that despite using the same disciplinary method, 100% of the children were more responsive to instructions spoken at a normal voice level if they came from someone other than their mother. Well, if you have just joined us, you can log on to www.standardmedia.co.ke to get more stories making headlines across the country. You're watching The Weekend at 1. Well, that's it on The Weekend at 1 on KTN Home. Join me for part 2 of this bulletin on KTN News.